The sinking of the RMS Titanic is one of the most famous stories in maritime history, thanks in part to James Cameron's iconic 1997 movie. The RMS Titanic was a luxurious steamship that boasted top-of-the-range facilities, decked with fine furniture and state-of-the-art equipment for the time. The second and third class accommodations weren't bad either, and provided entertainment areas and comfortable rooms for those who couldn't afford first-class tickets. But just before midnight on April 14, 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg. It tore into the side of the ship, causing seawater to flood into 6 of its 16 watertight compartments. Just a few hours later, the Titanic was swallowed by the ocean, finally going down in the early morning of April 15th. The Titanic had a total of 20 lifeboats on board, more than the required number by the Board of Trade, but definitely not enough to rescue all the passengers and crew. The ship had approximately 2,200 people on board when it sank, and those 20 lifeboats could only carry 1,178 people. To add to that, the evacuation was hasty and disorganized due to panic, and some lifeboats were released without even reaching full capacity. All in all, only 705 people were able to escape the sinking ship. The rest died in the frigid waters of the Atlantic, while others went down with the Titanic when it sank to the bottom of the ocean.
The whole world stood still that night. Once the lights had gone, the ship had gone, the sound had gone. Oh, it was dreadful.
The CS Mackay Bennett from Halifax, Nova Scotia was tasked to retrieve dead bodies following the sinking. Halifax was the major port closest to the location of Titanic's sinking, and even then it took 4 days for the ship to reach the site. The Mackay Bennett was loaded with ice, wooden coffins, and embalming fluid. The ship's captain, Frederick Harold Larnder, described the scene and said that the bodies looked, quote, like a flock of seagulls. The Mackay Bennett spent a week searching the sites and surrounding areas for bodies. After considerable effort, they were able to recover 306 victims. 3 other ships from Halifax were sent to the site, and they were able to recover 22 additional bodies, while other steamers that just happened to pass by the site recovered 5 more. The rescue ship Carpathia recovered 4. Of the 300-plus bodies recovered, 119 were buried at sea. This is because they had been found after the embalming fluid ran out, while other bodies were beyond recognition. These bodies were wrapped in cloth and then strapped to weights to make them sink to the bottom of the ocean. Roughly 1,500 people died when the Titanic sank, and of that number, approximately 1,160 bodies were never recovered, making the vast ocean their final resting place. After the recovery efforts, the ships containing the dead bodies docked at Halifax. Curious onlookers were gathered at the docks to watch as the bodies were transported from the ship to the waterfront. Halifax had been chosen as the location best suitable for bringing the dead, as the bodies could easily be transported from that location to other cities by train or ship if needed. Halifax mourned the loss of lives by putting black crepe in windows and flying flags at half-mast. Of the bodies that were recovered, 150 were buried in 3 different cemeteries in Halifax. Those who were identified were given headstones by their families, while unidentified victims had simple headstones saying they died on the Titanic. More than 25% of those buried in Halifax remain nameless, but that doesn't stop locals from offering tributes by leaving items on their graves. Attempts have been made to identify some of these victims, however. In 2019, Titanic expert Bill Willard attempted to test the remains of the unknown individuals in order to finally identify them. While the British Titanic Society approved the proposal, some graveyard authorities where victims are buried refused the test, saying that the dead should be left to rest in peace. Previous to that, in 2001, the so-called unknown child had been identified as Sidney Goodwin, who was just 19 months old when the Titanic sank.